Soar is awesome. That seems to be the theme for today. Their gameplay was pretty awesome in that last set. It was definitely a lot of fun getting to watch those players face off against the EU team. But now, thanks to that set victory on the side of Soar Gaming, they will be progressing to tomorrow's semis matches, which is going to start the best of 5 rounds. So I'm sure that they're pretty excited to be joining the likes of Astral Authority already. So both those teams being locked in for semis tomorrow is going to be quite the experience.
It should be an experience for them, but they need to go home today, Taco, and work out what they did wrong in that game. There's so much of that game tape to look back at and look at the mistakes and correct them. Otherwise, tomorrow won't be a best of 5. It'll be 3 games and you're going home. I can predict that already.
And speaking of which, I do have Hindu here on the desk now, joining me. Excited for that, considering that he's
you sure?
I'm more accustomed to being there and you being here, but now that I get this part, you can't, just cut my legs off.
What?
And everything.
You don't have any legs to cut off.
All right, well, there we go. And and there it is, folks. But like I mentioned, we do have Soar progressing to tomorrow's semis matches alongside of Astral Authority. For today, though, in the quarterfinals, we still have Strictly Business Set and Elevate, which is coming up right now for these two teams to go head-to-head.
And this should be a good one, because Strictly Business are kind of a team that came out of nowhere this split to an extent. I mean, their squad is relatively unknown, but they did find the second seed here, Taco, with how their performances have gone. Now they get a shot against Elevate, which has made things a little bit easier for them.
Well, you know how players and teams especially love to talk, and that's definitely been the word on the street as far as all these other teams seem to be viewing Strictly Business more so as a team who's had RNG Jesus on their side rather than as much talent and player skill. All of the players on the side of Strictly Business have definitely proven themselves, I think, throughout the console split.
Sure.
They've done an excellent job as far as performance is concerned in order to secure that second seed, but some people attribute that a little bit more to the shaky starts from teams such as Obey.
Exactly, and that's kind of true, but you have to have a little bit of luck sometimes in the gaming world as well. So you've got even the professional sports leagues around the world, you've got to have a little bit of luck now and again. These guys had it, and they find themselves in a comfortable position. They've got a lot to live up to, though, coming up against the likes of Elevate here.
Who would you say that is the players or section to keep an eye on as far as Strictly Business is concerned?
It's not necessarily about how well they can play individually, but for me, it's probably on MrTeep and how well he can keep Oboronic controlled in the mid lane. The mid lane matchup is the one I really want to focus on here.
And what makes you so intent on looking towards that mid lane matchup?
It's mainly down to how well Oboronic is a player in the mid lane and how much of an impact he can make for his squad every single time. MrTeep has to keep up with that as this game goes on. In this set, he has to make sure he's performing at least to the level Oboronic is to allow his team to utilize it so well and find the wins.
Oboronic is certainly a player who has been fairly feared as far as Oboronic is concerned in the mid lane area. I mean, you have to be consistently aware that Elevate is one of those teams that loves just pulling out whatever, whenever. We've seen it before, especially with some of the players already, such as Checo.
Well, let me hold you for a second, because what I just heard was MrTeep is actually maybe in the solo lane here, not necessarily in the mid lane. We're not 100% certain now, because he's sat in the solo lane in the seat right now. Look at his cheesy grin. Is he like, is he set this up?
He's trying to throw us off.
Trying to throw us off?
Throw us off of our game. They had this all pre-planned in advance. Like, you know what'd be a good idea, guys? This.
Strictly BM. That's what I see that as.
Well, whether or not we find MrTeep in that solo lane or in the mid-roll, I'd still say that he's certainly a player that's established himself well enough for Elevate to stay wary of him. We've seen it plenty of times throughout the split. He's excellent as far as positioning is concerned, and I think when you attribute a lot of these factors to combining with the rest of the team, it's all really essential. Yeah,
Godpool seems very varied enough to be in a mid-lane position, provide a lot for his team as well. The likes of Vulcan and Poseidon, some of the replays we saw there. Big AoE gods that you really need to go to. You have to do a lot of juking around on those gods, though. Positioned very, very key.
But one guy that we do know for certain is going to be found in that mid lane role is actually Mr. Oboronic, and I know that he's probably incredibly excited to get things going for the side of Team Elevate. I mean, considering that this is a best of 3, these guys know starting off on the right foot and securing that first W is one of the most important parts.
Definitely. Getting the first win under your belt in a game of 3 so vital to you. It takes a lot of the pressure off of being on the stage for the first time. It means you're comfortable straight away from the get-go, and you also means you've got 2 chances to still go through, even if you make a mistake in game 2.
And like you mentioned, Hindu, having the awareness that first shot's probably one of those important parts and it gives you a little bit of leeway, definitely a way to take some of that weight off your shoulders. And I'm sure that Oboronic feeling a little bit of pressure now, but let's take a more in-depth look to see what exactly he's been feeling all along.
oBoronic, Lariana. I played for Team Elevate and I played mid lane. Competitive Smite, I played for 2 years, so I haven't played PC at all. I started off on, Xbox Beta when it came out. So yeah, I've been playing Xbox Beta, and then I started playing, watching PC streams, and I was like, I want to get into this, Once we placed top 8 on the Challenger Cup team, it really motivated me to, because I was that close to making it. So all summer long, I played a ton of ranked. And that fall split, it was Los Amigos. They played through the Challenger Cup. And they wanted to make a change in mid lane because it was MichaelCheco. He wasn't working out in mid, so I had actually been subbing in for them for scrim sometime. So they called me and they said, you want to try out for mid? And this was 3 days before the Pro League started, so I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go for it. So yeah, and then that weekend we 4-0'd MW, which was the top team at the time, and 2-0'd SOAR. This team feels more like I don't know, I guess a family, you could say, because last team on Aware, we wouldn't talk about scrims that much. It was kind of, he used to be layers for our jungler. He wouldn't, in scrims, he didn't have the greatest attitude. So that kind of messed things up. This team, I feel like we can sort problems better. Even though our tough split, I think we're gonna be better than our Aware team.
Sorting out problems seems to be the main theme for the side of Elevate, and I mean, Oboronic mentioned it himself. He feels more like the team's a family, and that is so vital when it comes to an atmosphere surrounding your team.
Definitely. When you play in the Pro League and you play in the competitive level, you are around your teammates every single day, either in scrims and just general conversations. You have to hang out with these people. And that's some of the times we see that teams will end up selecting to remove members because they just don't get on with the rest of the clique. You've got to be a crew to be able to perform at the highest level and almost read each other's minds. And that's why the word family gets brought up a lot, because family is one of those things that, you definitely have a connection that you really need.
Well, I'm certain that the Elevate family is going to try and take up the first match of the day against Strictly Business. Both these teams are ready to try and brawl it out against each other. And what I'd imagine to see here, we've seen it before from MichaelCheco himself, that hell is absolutely scary, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if Strictly Business opted to take it away.
The question is what does MichaelCheco play in the Hunter role? Because from what I understand, he is completely out there with his picks. Have we seen Hells? As well as he has got a Scotty, and Scotty is available right now, and we're seeing Scotty get through the banning stages, which is ludicrous. After seeing last week's performance, it's the same patch that Gauntlet was on, it's the same patch that Console's on right now.
This is 2 North American teams, though, as opposed to a North American versus a European team. And because of that aspect, I feel as though Scotty, well, yeah, there it is. The immediate ban away, one or the other was going to take that completely off the table, and it's kind of expected it would be the second pick team doing it.
Scotty, Cabrakan, Susano are the 3 that should be banned every ban phase, and then there's one flexible ban, which is that hell for me. But I do like the fact that Strictly Business realized that because they are first pick, by not banning one of those 3 that I just mentioned, it does mean that they can get one of them as first pick if Elevate don't ban it.
That's just the strategy factor coming through as well. And Elevate, both excellent bans made by them. You don't want to permit the Susano to go through. You don't want to allow for that Scotty to have any opportunity, but you have to let something go through, like you mentioned, Hindu, and it's going to be the Zeus.
Yeah, they're going to select the Zeus in the mid lane, which I'm not really too surprised at. You don't necessarily want to give Oboronic that Zeus. We've seen how strong he can be, but it does mean that you leave that Cabrakan open for Elevate to then get a window and take for themselves. So that combo of Bellona, Cabrakan, very, very strong in the early stages and throughout the game. And
I actually love this draft composition already on the side of Elevate, because not only do they have that frontline presence in case they need to get in the face of Zeus, but those are just 2 gods that are excellent at locking him down. It's going to be incredibly difficult, and they're certainly going to have to watch their positioning on this mid lane Zeus.
But I love the response from Strictly Business going for Sylvanus and Awilix here. The combination from those 2, ult and ult together, you can have the Terror that brings straight into the gravity surge, which allows Awilix just to pull them all the way back, is great setup potential. Not only that, Sylvanus and Zeus combo, beautiful as well.
certainly a very solid early game presence already on the side of Strictly Business. And with the Vulcan being locked away from Elevate, what would you like to see in response as far as the next couple of picks are concerned for Elevate to try and deal with this early game composition?
So with the early game comp that Strictly Business have right now, I think Elevate really needs to look at some lane pressure a little bit more. They've got the Cabrakan, which is pretty solid as well, with Vulcan in mid. Something in the duo lane like a Medusa would be pretty strong here for themselves to get some pressure there. But if Cabrakan goes into the jungle here, they do still need a support as well. Fafnir, maybe? We don't see too much of that on the console just lately.
Well, great call on the Medusa pick, and that's immediately going to be locked away for the side of Elevate. So there's a little bit of early game pressure to try and compensate for the Sylvanus push that's undoubtedly going to come through. But the Hercules Bellona matchup, that is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, just because Hercules can do pretty well in that matchup against Bellona. Bellona loves to max the bludgeon first of all, but you've got that wind up, which is exactly the same moment Hercules will love for that driving strike every single time they can. I like the choice of Khepri alongside that, just because we talked about late wave clear and pressure. Khepri's another one that is fantastic. Doesn't match to Sylvanus, but it's good enough.
Well, Hindu, with both of these teams locked away, I am definitely excited to see how this match plays out. So here's the casters to take it away.
Thank you very much, Taco and Hindu. We've got one side of the bracket complete. We already know the semifinals on the left side. Now it's time to check out the right. Elevate versus Strictly Business is going to be our first matchup here, Toli. And what jumps out at you when you look at these two team compositions?
Honestly, the Cabrakan is what's standing out on the side of Elevate. Strictly Business, they elected to first pick the Zeus, which is not surprising to me, but you're leaving open the Cabrakan, which is kind of a hard counter. It's not the Odin hard counter, but it's a semi-counter. You get half of a ring circle.
Plus, Cabrakan is like the top pick, top ban right now that usually doesn't get through. Strictly Business decide not to take it themselves because oBoronic is so potent on this Zeus. It's his signature character, basically. We took a look at oBoronic's player video, and most of those highlights were on Zeus, so they knew they didn't want to give it up, but his Vulcan is also very, very proficient.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage coming out the side of Elevate, making sure that they have a lot of setup here. The Cabrakan having multiple stuns, the Tremors is going to be very obnoxious to deal with, and not to mention the Khepri on Kenshin is going to be providing a lot of control as well.
Nickwood in that solo lane for Strictly Business. This is going to be the first time in quite a while we've seen him on a warrior. Basically, the entire online portion of the spring split, he was playing nothing but Guardians, the Xingqians, the Terras, the Ymirs, things along that nature. Now on the Hercules, a bit of a change of pace, but not one that I mind, Toli. Hercules very strong right now in the meta and fits this kind of early mid-game team fighting composition that SB has gone for.
Especially paired up with a Awilix for Reminisst. This is the early game strategy that's being deployed by Strictly Business. And I'm not surprised necessarily by how Nickwood has turned the tables going from Guardian to the Warriors coming into lane. You always want to be keeping your opposition on their toes, so this is something that he's doing in the solo lane.
Chillvanus is with MrTeep in that mid lane 2v2 right now. DoctorL and oBoronic want to get the better end of this clear, but DoctorL cannot afford to sit there and use the Tremors, so it's actually going to be Teep and Chillvanus getting the edge there. On the right-hand side, it's Kenshin with his solo laner, just trying to get Bellona a little bit of safety in this lane early on.
Rising Dawn does a lot of wave clear as well as preventing the damage from your opposition, so looking for the clear, alleviating a little bit of pressure from the Bellona. You don't necessarily want to get too close to Reminisst on this Awilix.
Keji just going to get those little minions off the purple buff while Elevate steals away his red. So slight advantage right now for Elevate, but it's going to be SB who get back to this mid wave first. Elevate could choose to do these left side mid harpies. Looks like that's exactly what they're doing. They may lose a little bit to this tower, but the clear speed from the Cabrakan is enough to make sure that they secure themselves that mid farm easily.
Elevate doing a great job thus far, getting the first two buffs of the game, getting the neutral camp left side mid harpies. Now granted, Strictly Business is going to get these oracles to grant them a little bit of vision, which isn't a bad thing when you're dealing with such an aggressive jungler.
SB went to that right-hand side, and I thought it cleaned up those fire elementals, but it looks like they left the big one there, Toli. Didn't get a chance to clean that out. So this is a huge win for Elevate. Not only did they get that big minion of the fire creeps, which is the most valuable one, but they also steal away the enemy red buff. Elevate, despite having the composition that should come up a little bit later, takes the advantage early on.
It's all about whatever experience you can min-max at the beginning of the game. The question is who's going to get level 5 first, and if you're going to be in a position to make a play off of it. Looking on the side of Elevate, there could be a lot of plays. delnyy doing a good job turning around, preventing that knockup from Reminisst.
Like the idea there from Nickwood to step up and try and secure an easy first blood in that solo lane, but delnyy a little bit too veteran for that, I suppose, knows exactly what's coming. delnyy, remember, did come to LAN with Elevate last season. He was playing under Mr. McWaffles at the time and was with Reminisst. Reminisst was the jungler on that Elevate team who came to LAN this time, facing off against one another. But looking across the board for Strictly Business, Reminisst, the only one with LAN experience here. How difficult is that to have 4 members who have never played at LAN before, Tol?
It's very difficult. If you're the only one that has to rally the rest of your teammates to make sure that they don't have any LAN jitters, to be on the same page after picks and bans, you have to create a strategy and execute it accordingly. And thus far, Reminisst has been sitting in the solo lane trying to synergize off of Nikwid's pull, still waiting around the corner.
I don't know if delnyy knows he's here. There's the pull from Nikwid and the push directly into the knockup from Reminisst. The Feather Step gonna combine, and Nikwid gonna be able to clean up that first blood in the solo lane.
The patience from Reminisst not using the ultimate, recognizing that Bellona's only level 4, doesn't have the Eagles rally available for the escape. Saving onto the ultimate now allows Reminisst to maybe even look for a second gank in that solo lane.
Really good presence of mind there. Reminisst, like I mentioned, did come to LAN last season, but didn't really have a great performance. Looked to have a couple LAN nerves maybe the second time around. He'll be able to shake those demons. This is one of the matchups, Tolly, that I'm really looking forward to, is MichaelCheco versus Keji, a couple guys who are new to the SPL. The NA Hunter pool continues to get better and better. Both these guys rookies this split, but have that late game carry potential. Excited to see who gets the better end of this one.
And MichaelCheco is one of these players in the console scene that everybody looks up to. They always troll him a little bit too, making names in the teams during relegations. But either way, there's a lot of respect on the side of this player because even Strictly Business was trying to ban him out.
With that hell, exactly. They mentioned it on the desk. That hell ban is for the Hunter. MichaelCheco known for his interesting strats. Some may say cheese. Some may say interesting. I went with interesting this time around.
It's definitely worth experimenting, and whenever you run a mage in that dual lane position, you keep your opponents guessing.
Oboronic pulled in and knocked up. The Scarab's Blessing's on top of him, and Kenshin gonna be able to save his life until the detonate comes through from MrTeep. Those detonate stacks stay on you through the revive. Great patience once more by Strictly Business, able to secure their second kill.
And the snipe's not even necessary from Keji, but the ultimate and the spray from MichaelCheco securing those oracles, just making sure that he gets a little bit of gold back in his pocket.
Heads up play there by MichaelCheco, one that many rookies may not make, but knowing that his ultimate is worth that farm at this stage in the game.
Trying to min-max anytime he can. He recognizes there's going to be no team fight because all the ultimates from Strictly Business was committed. Wrath of Terror, even the Rama snipe after the Zeus ultimate, there's no pressure that's going to be dealt in his lane. So now he's going to be able to use the cooldown of his own ultimate, basically assessing when the ultimates of the Strictly Business will be available.
Now, if you're Kenshin in this matchup, Tolly, and you just watch your mid laner fall after reviving him, normally Khepris aren't leveling that Scarab's Blessing at every chance they get. That's an ability that they kind of hold on until they have to level it up. In this matchup, are you putting points in that to get your revives up healthier so to maybe get them out of range of that Zeus detonate damage?
Well, that's a lot of damage on the Zeus. So honestly, if I'm playing the Khepri for Kenshin, I'm definitely considering here because after Rising Dawn, it's worth committing at that point. Even able to save a skill point at level 8, making sure that you max out your Rising Dawn and put a second point into that Scarab's Blessing. Now, having increased crowd control wouldn't be a bad idea for Kenshin, but making sure whoever you revive is worth way more.
Really, Khepri is one of those characters I think has some of the more interesting choices in terms of where they choose to level their abilities. Rising Dawn, the obvious one to max, as delnyy is forced to use that Eagles Rally to get away. Nikwid just controlling him so far in this solo lane. But Khepri gets increased CC on both his 1 and his 3 as he levels it. They have to make a choice. Are you going to make sure you're leveling that Abduct? With actually pretty good burst damage as well, able to control them for longer from close up, or that Solar Flare from a distance, trying to increase that root duration.
It depends how aggressive you want to be, or do you want to set up from that distance like you were mentioning before, and that's the battle that a lot of supports have to basically fight internally as a Khepri support. But either way, so far, looking at the score, 2-0 for Strictly Business. Still not too far out of reach for Elevate. They're only down about 1,100 gold.
1,100 gold right at the 7-minute mark, though, is something that is worth mentioning. Not one of those, 200-300 gold leads. But you're right, Elevate still in a decent spot. And remember, we talked about it a lot. Strictly Business's composition is designed to get ahead at this stage in the game, and they're doing just that this time around at least. Sitting up about 1,200 experience as well, usually a little bit more impactful at this stage of the game than that gold lead.
Trying to get to level 12 first will be the deciding factor of who's going to get that second relic and who's going to be able to get that objective around that gold fury. Neither team kind of flirting with the idea just yet. Instead, electing to go for those left side mid harpies, making sure that the oracles are taken on cooldown, and then from there controlling the vision. Look at Elevate's warding around the gold, even mid lane.
And now they're really heavily contesting those oracles as well to make sure that they have uncontestable vision around that gold fury. And with this composition that Strictly Business has, you can understand why Reminisst on this Awilix can pop that gravity surge for the increased attack speed and power, really burn gold fury down pretty quickly. MrTeep's lightning storm, excellent at burning objectives quickly, so heads up play here by Elevate.
Despite Strictly Business having all this vision around the gold fury, I'm sorry, actually they have all the vision on the fire giant side, afraid of any ganks, but look at this gold fury attempt from Elevate into the sky's Keji, trying to steal it away, but a great reset.
Trying to get a little bit of damage into the opposition. He does just that, but Elevate are going to be able to walk away by baiting out that ultimate from Keji. Not so bad, though, for Strictly Business. He still has those purification beads, but I think DoctorL is going to be the one to say, okay, I'm heading to that left-hand side. Beads doesn't save you from a Cabrakan wall.
Especially when you have oldest vision around gold fury, as long as you can deny it from your opposition, you can safely gank that hunter. Without that defensive cooldown of the ultimate, only having the purification beads, now you don't have that 6-second window where you can just stay in the air when you know you're going to die, but you could allow the rest of your teammates to rotate and look for the cleanup.
Checo is up a level as well right now and should be sitting on a decent amount of gold, ready to back and almost finish off that Transcendence at this stage. Keji instead going for a little bit more boxing-oriented build, the Ichball giving him some increased attack speed, power, and penetration, but not nearly as much power as the Transcendence we'll probably see from Checo.
Whenever we look at two different hunter styles between attack-based versus ability-based, one goes for the lifesteal, one goes for the Transcendence here, but Keji on the Ram going for more of attack speed, despite already having that steroid available in his second ability, trying to really outbox the opponent on Checo. But the thing is, it's DoctorL playing the Cabrakan. Normally you go for an early Ichball when it's an aggressive physical jungler, not a magical one.
Interesting decision there from delnyy to teleport into the left harpies there right after doing his blue buff. Now he's helping split that purple experience despite knowing that delny's here. It's Strictly Business pulling this gold fury down below 75%. There's the lock-in from DoctorL, the petrify right on top of Nickwood. Huge knock-up though coming out of Chillvanus. DoctorL's gonna fall. Kenshin forced to try and get away. Checo cleans up Nickwood though.
The snipes coming from Keji is gonna pop the bubble from Keji. The Vulcan ultimate from a distance.
Ooh.
Not on the mark. MrTeep and Keji doing the best 1-2 split impersonation. Oboronic almost taking out Chillvanus, but pulling him back into the danger zone. Chillvanus taken out. That's 2 for 1.
And Oboronic is still so healthy that he can start up this gold fury totally. Checo doesn't have any lifesteal and Keji's still hanging around, but doesn't have that ultimate. Now decides just gonna farm up his red buff instead. Elevate walk away with the team fight and the gold fury. Gold lead now right about even at 10.5 minutes.
Too ambitious with Strictly Business, trying to go for that gold fury without any sort of clear-cut advantage in a 5v5 scenario, despite being up almost 2,000 gold, almost 2,000 experience. It's not that big of a lead to the point where you could just straight up do this objective in front of your opponent's face.
That was the first real engagement that DoctorL has been a part of, and it goes handily in Elevate's favor. They do lose a couple members there in that engagement, but they end up on top at the end, getting the gold fury. DoctorL doesn't seem to be the type of jungler who wants to force the pressure around the map. He's just kind of waiting until the opportunity falls into his lap and taking advantage then.
Trying to max out his second ability along with his first. That's the burst damage coming from Cabrakan. Already having the pen boots available, working on that void stone to survive a little bit more against MrTeep, because whenever you use your Cabrakan ultimate over the Zeus player, the counter action is going to be that Zeus ultimate, the chain lightning. So as long as you can survive the counter burst, that's the goal for DoctorL.
And he has that passive that makes him take less damage, going to help him out in that respect, and that Mark of the Vanguard. So has a lot of options in terms of taking a little bit less damage. Love the Voidstone pickup. as you mentioned, one of those hybrid items that synergizes so well with the Guardian, who's going to be right in the front line. Portal Demon started up here by Strictly Business. Nikwit tries to zone away delnyy as the Lightning Storm is dropped, and delnyy going to have to try and get away after the boulder from Nikwit helps secure the Portal Demon in favor of SB. delnyy, instead of just turning around, instead uses ultimate to get away from that knockup.
Could be the land jitters that we were talking about before. Not really able to find the safety. He was doing a good job in soloing when he was preventing the knockup around level 3 or 4, but that time did not necessarily needed was the Eagles rally, because from that distance on, you have enough time to be able to turn your character model.
So we've seen a lot of this build that delnyy looks like he's going for here, Toli. It's specifically from Bellona. The boots into the Mark of the Vanguard into a mystical mail. Why is this build so prevalent right now? What does it do well and what does it not excel at?
It depends on what you want to do in team fights. And if you're going to have the mystical mail, you're basically committing yourself towards the backline. But you're also going to have the magical damage per tick, which is going to help out with the penetration from the Void Stone coming out of DoctorL. But delnyy caught in a 1v3 without his ultimate.
Doesn't have it, remember. There's the push in from Nikwit. delnyy, there's the feather step. There he goes. Reminisst with the easy kill on that right-hand side as all 5 members of SB come through that portal and knock down that solo tower. 500 gold goes the way of the blue team. Nikwit, he's going to teleport onto the left side to stop the push coming in from MichaelCheco, but he knew that was coming and immediately started rotating towards mid.
It's going to be a 4-on-3 around the duel lane, but DoctorL is getting zoned away from Chillvanus. Checo, though, making the rotation from duo to hunter to min-max, get another wave under his belt, and then could look to rotate in this team fight.
Chillvanus locked in by DoctorL. The damage isn't good enough, though. Still sitting about 50% HP. Fire Giant gets pulled by the tremors coming out of DoctorL. Big damage out of Teep's ultimate, but not enough to really knock anyone so low enough to allow Keji to find the snipes from a distance.
delnyy teleports back in. Could be a 5-on-5, but instead electing to go back into the soul lane to get that important farm. Down about 2 levels against Nikwit. Doesn't have a second relic, doesn't have that mystical mail, and that's going to be an important factor that Strictly Business could look at and look to go for an engagement.
Yeah, this is the tough part about this build, Toli, is that you sit on Steel Mail for what feels like forever, because mystical mail is so expensive in terms of the physical protection items. It's been sitting on that second item for quite some time, and delnyy really hasn't been able to have too much of an impact on this game quite yet, but you can't say the same about his lane opponent. Nikwit, 1, 1, and 2, top of the player damage charts, has been a big factor so far in Strictly Business's slight lead.
Despite the slow early start from delnyy, he's still going to be making an impact in these team fights. All it's going to take is 1 Scourge against Keji once he pops that steroid, and there goes about 33% of his DPS. And that's going to be an important factor for the rest of Elevate to be safe in that front line. Without the Rama damage that delny's preventing, they could continue the pressure.
Do you like this build coming out of Keji, chin size right after that Ichval? You have a little bit of pen in terms of that Ichval, but I don't know, is this enough damage to punch through that mystical mail Mark of the Vanguard combination from delnyy?
I mean, it's going to basically eliminate some of the health options, right? If you're going to be building health, you go for the chin size. That's a clear-cut advantage, especially considering Kenshin went for the Gauntlet of Thebes. If you're not going to be committing to the backline, you want to be able to melt those tanks. And as long as you can position yourself in such a way that you don't need lifesteal, as well as relying on Chillvanus Wisps to heal you up, it's not the worst build in the world from Keji.
DoctorL knocked up, but not pulled in by Reminisst. 2-level lead for the Strictly Business jungler over DoctorL, who's still trying to really find his footing in the jungle. Elevate has gone through a couple different roster role swaps, basically. oBoronic was jungle for a little bit. DoctorL has found his home there, at least for the time being, as the Gold Fury is the focus right now for Elevate. Kenshin in that front line gets pulled back in by Chillvanus. DoctorL already under half HP, but delnyy goes with the Eagles rally into 3, immediately gets 1 set of purification beads out from MrTeep.
DoctorL, though, getting poked out by Keji on the left-hand side. Some disconnect between the rest of Elevate as delnyy dove in. Now it's Nikwit diving into that backline. Pops the Thorns, getting pulled back in, though, is going to be DoctorL.
There's the push, there's the damage as well. Scarab's Blessing's good from Kenshin, as is oBoronic's ultimate, but up into the sky goes Keji. Snipes the delny's the focus, not the low-health Cabrakan. Double meditation popped by Elevate. Now looking to re-engage. Nickwood very low, but does have that teleport up within the next 5 seconds.
Without the ultimate from MrTeep, nothing to fear from Elevate. Starting the Gold Fury, right about half health. DoctorL leading the charge, gets off an ultimate, gets stunned, and the pull. MichaelCheco still looking to do some damage. delnyy on the bottom hand side doing a lot of damage, and the rest of their team is leaving them high and dry.
Elevate gets the Gold Fury. Reminisct tries to jump away. DoctorL very low with that detonate, not going to be able to clean him up. Somehow, everybody escapes with their lives, but Elevate secure their second Gold Fury of the game, putting them up slightly in gold, despite still being behind in kills.
Not having the kill counter, but having the more important kill counter on the form of the Gold Fury, staying relevant in the game. Now having a 1,000 gold lead for themselves, still at the 17-minute mark, so that's pretty much negligible. What you're really looking at is the experience difference here, and more importantly, at the side lane hunters. MichaelCheco with a 2-level lead over his opposition, Keji, still trying to get to that level 17 marker. And once a Medusa hits level 20 and has that kind of mobility with the Fatalis, you're going to be having a world of pain.
Yeah, MichaelCheco's done a great job so far of farming 2-0 and 0 for the hunter. 2 levels up on Keji, like you mentioned. Again, different styles of builds. Now the Fatalis is the focus for Keji. And it looks like it might be chin size for here for MichaelCheco, though it could also be Executioner in this stage. Either way, that slippery Medusa is going to be tough to lock down. And Petrify is just such a big team fighting ultimate. I think that's really the thing that pushed Medusa from a pretty good hunter that doesn't see a lot of pro level play to one of the top picks and top bans in the hunter pool, is how much damage that ultimate does now, even if you aren't looking at her.
And it's not necessarily the damage, it's what else it can bring to the table. The stun is also really good, and the fact that it basically forces you to turn around, that's going to be in hands you're not committing into the teamfight abilities that you're not using, so you're basically revolving around playing around this Medusa ultimate, so that buys you about half a second for the rest of your frontliners to get in a position to really dive that backline.
And even when you turn around, you're still slowed for a while as well. So the control and damage, certainly one of the reasons why Medusa is so highly contested in that hunter role. A couple abilities thrown out here onto the Portal Demon. DoctorL, who's tanking it up, but he's only level 12. In fact, he's the lowest level in the game, tied with Chillvanus, but there's the blink stun onto Reminisct. The control is good, but not enough damage onto the jungler. A big knock up there from Chillvanus, and Nickwood stuns the enemies into the lightning storm, but MrTeep has been kept busy by delnyy on the backside. Nickwood locked in by DoctorL. There's the Petrify coming out of Checo, and big damage so far. There's the Feather Step out of Reminisct, who has to beads away that abduct.
Everybody's surviving out of Strictly Business. The snipes from Keji missing the first, second off the mark as well. Meatball not going to connect, and just like that, everybody's surviving, but Sylvanus is available for Chillvanus. Having the sustain, could look to re-engage here.
Oh, there's the Wisps, a little bit of extra protections, but this Bludgeon is going to do a lot of damage. And delnyy cleans up Chillvanus. Portal Demon goes the way of Team Elevate as delnyy continues to make life difficult for MrTeep. And again, only one person falls for SB.
And just like that, despite the slow start from delnyy, making a play with that Bludgeon. The more targets you hit with the wind-up from the Bludgeon, the more damage the second hit is going to do. And Chillvanus underestimating that damage, despite having the Mark of the Vanguard, the Reinforced Greaves, and the health that Gauntlet of Thebes provides you.
Now Elevate just backs and comes through the portal, all healthy, all healed up, all with their items that they got from that last team fight, and knock down that 500 gold tower in the mid lane. Now looking at the red buff of SB. Got to worry about this control coming out of DoctorL. That's what set everything up the first time around in that last team fight, but the Boulder not going to be enough to steal away the red buff from Elevate, who get it for themselves, and hand it over to Checo, who's now level 18 already.
Having a little bit of cooldown reduction for Nickwood in the Breast of Plate of Valor, but that's going to allow this engagement.
Chillvanus with the ultimate, but the Lightning Storm this time isn't nearly as good for Teep. Chillvanus is locked in and knocked down. Oboronic with the long-range ultimate gets credit for the kill. Elevate evens the kill total at 4-4, but the gold lead, that's not even. 3,000 gold in the lead for Elevate.
Great plays all across the board. delnyy and DoctorL playing so well in the front line, and Oboronic throwing out those long-distance artillery shots, making his impact now known in this later stage of the game. And Chillvanus, this is one of these immobile Guardians that you can really punish here if you're looking at Elevate.
Yeah, strictly business. Their Guardian, Sylvanus, just keeps walking up to the opposition and trying to find these ultimates. The first few were pretty solid, but now that Checo has the items, now that Oboronic has some items, You just can't sit there and face tank a level 18, level 19 Medusa. Can't handle a Vulcan that's got 3 items complete now with some serious penetration in that build between the Dynasty Plate Helm and the Divine Ruin. It looks like Boronic's not done with the pen. He's going for even more, likely to be an Obsidian Shard here.
And the pen on the physical side as well. MichaelCheco with that Executioner synergizes a little bit of the in-hands coming from delnyy. So once that Sylvanus gets locked into the wall from the Cabrakan, an easy pick. And then without that Guardian on the side of Strictly Business, they don't have the sustain to keep running through these team fights that would be expected to last as long as they would like. And Elevate, they're basically going to be a bursty all-in composition. It's been working out for them.
DoctorL looping around here, looking for something in that mid lane, but Nikwid the first one in, not too worried about, even though he's a little bit behind now, sitting at level 16, still feeling pretty confident in that tanky Hercules. I don't think I've ever said the sentence before, Toli, but I think Boronic has too much penetration. I don't think I've ever seen that before. With the Void Stone coming out of DoctorL as well, it might be a little overkill, but it's working out for him thus far, so you can't really complain. Gold Fury down around 50% HP. Nikwid's in the middle of 4 members in his control. There's the Abduct. Big pull there, though. Here comes the Vulcan ultimate, but it's Aegis out by 2 members of SB. The Boulder doesn't do a whole lot of help there for Nikwid, and it's everyone funneled into a tiny little corner. Checo finds Nikwid, delnyy finds MrTeep. Now Keji's up in the sky,
but finding 2, couldn't find the 3rd, but getting pulled back into it is Chillvanus. He's going to be the 3rd victim. delnyy wants to dive this so badly, but have to be careful though, because MichaelCheco is taking a lot of damage in the backline. Sure, you can grab 1 hunter, but you don't want to lose your hunter that's a higher level than the opponent.
Checo low enough, but still healthy enough to be on this Gold Fury. Somehow gets aggro there because DoctorL peels off of it, but is able to dash out in time. Elevate get Gold Fury number 3. 3 kills there as well. 7-4 now in kills. We're 23 minutes in, and Elevate is starting to separate themselves from SB.
What used to be about a 2,000 gold deficit now becomes a very hefty 6,000 gold lead for Elevate, looking to snowball this game out of proportion. Strictly Business, they don't really have any answers and responses, because not only was Nikwid dying in the front line, but it was MrTeep that was caught under that Cabrakan ultimate to start things off. And without the buffer from Hercules or the long-range damage from your Zeus, you're just not going to win that team fight.
And no Heartward Amulet either from either Chillvanus or Nikwid to give some magical protection to the carries and to themselves, because they need it right now. Between Boronic and DoctorL, quite a bit of magical damage coming out of the side of Elevate. But Checo's on top, number 1 in terms of damage, 3, 0, and 2. He has hit level 20. It is now going for some crit, something that we haven't seen a whole lot of as of late. Do you like it in this scenario?
I mean, it depends on how he's going to transition it, because sometimes you build crit right off the bat, or like your 5th item, you don't necessarily get your 2nd crit, like in terms of Deathbringer. You can go for Wind Demon potentially, but it looks like it might be the Rage or the Deathbringer here coming out of MichaelCheco, electing not to go for that Wind Demon. Still has the mobility that he needs between the passive of Medusa and the Fatalis. Considering just how much attack speed he has and the damage, I like the crit option.
There's the Abduct onto Nikwid. Kenshin still in that front line of the Portal Demon, focused down by Elevate. There's the Boulder coming out of Nikwid, but it doesn't secure the Portal Demon. Elevate gets yet another objective. SB has taken some of these team fights, at least early on, but the objectives have been all Elevate so far.
And every single objective recently, at least, Nikwid has been throwing out this boulder and not connecting to steal it around that Portal Demon, around the red buff. And this is allowing Elevate to force a team fight without having that important boulder that can easily ricochet off of that Cabrakan ultimate.
And again, Elevate using this portal to their advantage. They take the team fight, they back, they come popping right out, ready to go once more. Only 1 tier 1 tower left remaining that defends SB's base. That seems to be the focus for Elevate. 4 members here, and as Checo comes through that portal, make that 5. Deathbringer was the call for the Hunter. So as long as he rolls well, could see Reminisst, Teep, and Keji really pop from the damage coming out of Checo, especially MrTeep, who's only level 14 right now.
Not able to really get the better end of things here is the Zeus player out of mid, despite having it first pick for Strictly Business, but it is going to be the Medusa doing a lot of work thus far. Nikwid trying to lead the charge, finds a pull onto Kenshin. Eagles rally though in the back.
Right onto Keji. It's delnyy and a DoctorL keeping the Hunter busy, and they're going to bring him down to 1 HP, make that 0. DoctorL with the kill. The Boronic ultimate over the top is going to knock down Chillvanus. A lot of damage there. DoctorL finds 2. Nikwid plucked back in. Boronic's on a killing spree himself. Only Reminisst still alive. and he's got to watch as his tier 2 tower falls easily to all 5 members of Elevate.
If you looked at the player cams during that teamfight, Kenshin was just yelling at the top of his lungs into victory. A huge ultimate from MichaelCheco that eliminated MrTeep, followed up by oBoronic, and Elevate has been doing just a great job whenever these 5-5 encounters in their favor.
Love the idea to just knock down that right side Phoenix with the opportunity, because Elevate, they still have all 5 members totally, and they're all pretty healthy still. Fire Giant should be an easy secure here if they want it.
With the level 20 Medusa having Deathbringer, certainly looks like it. You have the turret from the level 18 Vulcan, a great vision from the Elevate to allow them the safety net of doing the Fire Giant. Not to mention, DoctorL is also in the mid lane, farming it up and providing that mobile ward for themselves.
So what's gone wrong here for Strictly Business? It looked like this game was pretty close, so SB was right into it, and then basically every team fight for the last 10 to 12 minutes has gone in Elevate's favor.
It seemed like that first Gold Fury attempt here by Strictly Business, when they tried to do it 5-on-5 without any sort of real advantage, was the beginning of the end. All of these team fights, they kept pushing themselves a little bit too far forward, getting punished by DoctorL's zone control between the wall and the Tremors. And then once delnyy got to that level 12 mark, got his meditate with the Mystical Mail, he just consistently dove that backline, making everyone's life a living hell on Strictly Business.
Yeah, delnyy, if you would have told me that delnyy at like the 12-minute mark, someone tapped him on the shoulder and said, all right, bro, give me the controller, I'm going to take over from here. And it was like, you know, Omega, I would have believed you. He looks like a completely different player since the mid game. The early game, he was getting crushed in that lane. And sometimes you have the losing lane matchup, and that's fine, and that happens. But it was the confidence level just didn't seem to be there. But now, he is consistently the first one in, or in that last scenario where Kenshin gets plucked, it's delnyy who comes in and distracts all of SB from focusing down his support.
You know, sometimes there's multiple games within one game. You know, you have the laning phase, which is technically one game. Getting ganked by Reminisct in the early phases makes delnyy get behind against Nikwid, but once you get level 12, you get that second relic online, the Gold Furies fights start happening. That first game that you were playing is completely gone. You're on to the next one, and this is what delnyy has been excelling at.
Reminisct sitting at 1-0-2, had that great early game in that solo lane, as you mentioned, but really hasn't been anywhere since that point. Is there anything that he could have done differently in this game, or is it just one of those, well, we passed 20 minutes and you're Awilix, so you just kind of watch as the rest of the team fight goes on?
Maybe just too much pressure in that solo lane. Forcing out the ultimates from delnyy was nice between Nikwid and Reminisct, but there was left unchecked the Medusa on MichaelCheco. Having this level 20 Medusa already like maybe 5 minutes ago was when Elevate was really starting to group up and taking advantage of the Hunter differential. So I would have liked to see more pressure from the jungler Reminisct onto that Medusa Hunter.
Left side tier 2 goes down. Elevate only has one more tower to worry about. 2 Phoenixes still left standing for SB, but they've got a tall mountain to climb, even if they win a couple team fights totally. They've only knocked down one tower for Elevate, who are now looking to siege down this middle lane. 1,700 gold in the lead for the red squad.
17,000 indeed is going to be a big one for Strictly Business. And this is not like the last set, Sword Gaming versus Rival, where there was a lot of back and forth action. Let's look and listen
to Elevate as they try and end the game.
Can we get some Phoenix. Pull. Get ready. Let's fucking go! Let's go! You guys are awesome! Let's go! Let's fucking go! Let's go, Checo! Why you guys so quiet now?
You hear it right there. MichaelCheco and Team Elevate take game 1 on the back of a quadra kill to end the game for the Hunter. Elevate looking strong thus far.
A lot of confidence from MichaelCheco and the rest of Elevate as they take this first game in the best of 3 set. And looking at the drafts here from Strictly Business, they're going to have to figure out a way to really figure, instead of banning out the Hell, they could have probably looked to ban out something else, maybe even the Cabrakan.
But if Checo's going to do that on a traditional Hunter that you're used to going up against, I think that SB might be a little worried about what he can pull out with a god that he's comfortable on, but you might not be comfortable against.
It seems that they definitely have a lot of intel on MichaelCheco. You know, we haven't seen it here in the console world. Maybe they've been experimenting it within scrims or a room around the block that MichaelCheco has been playing it, but I definitely personally want to see this god played.
Well, we might, but first we got to go over exactly what happened in game 1. We got Taco and Hindu on the desk to do just that.
And really, Agra, just all around, pretty unexpected turn of events, I'd say, in favor of Elevate. Considering that at the start of that game, Hindu, I don't know if you'd agree, it was a pretty slow-paced game.
It was a back and forth encounter by both these two teams as it went on, but for the most part, what it really came down to was burst from the side of Elevate up against the sustain that Strictly Business had. The sustain didn't come into play enough, though, the burst wins out the day.
And Vulcan, probably one of the best candidates for being able to secure all those objectives that we saw going the way of Elevate every single time. That was probably one of the most important aspects that really helped Elevate's snowball potential throughout that game. Gold Fury after Gold Fury, just constantly in favor of Elevate.
Sure, but it was the team fights before the Gold Fury that really allowed them to get them multiple times, because all that seemed to happen every single time was they got poked out in Strictly Business and decided to group up to heal again. But while they were trying to heal and group up and continue to resustain to fight once more, the Gold Fury and objectives were taken down off the back of it.
And that's one of the most important parts. I mean, whenever you have your team and you can recognize that the enemy is super low and they're trying to take that moment to get their sustain online, back off and heal up, just having the solo Sylvanus, and Hercules is a self-heal, but that's not enough to help contest your team, because that's also duration over time. But Elevate just wasn't providing any of that on the side of Strictly Business.
Also on the side of Elevate, Checo and Kenshin in the duo lane, neither of them, I believe, died towards the end of that game at all. They pretty much went undying. The Khepri played fantastic through that, as did Checo.
Checo was playing absolutely. That was what I was just about to say. The fact that he was popping off so heavily on a Medusa. I mean, when you think of MichaelCheco, you think of the Hell, you think of a Scotty even. You just expect cheese from this man. He loves it a little bit cheesy, but there's nothing cheesy about his Medusa gameplay.
No, he had a pretty good performance, solid overall. His positioning wasn't too bad in these engagements, but he wasn't focused either, which allowed him to get so far forward like he is doing to put out consistent damage.
And getting to free cast as a Medusa is probably one of the most fun parts about this god. I mean, she just has so much mobility inside of those jungle fights, and then plus with their passive and the side-to-side auto attack strafing, it can be really hard to lock her down as well as you would like to. So what do you think really was the turn of events for Strictly Business, other than the objectives?
Other than the objectives, it was mainly down to how they fought the team fights overall. The engagement was solid for them, but the follow-up wasn't really there from Strictly Business, and that came back to haunt them as time came on, because of the problem of the burst damage that once the whole group of Elevate got together, they just couldn't sustain out of it.
A little bit of overcommitment, you would say.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can definitely see where that came into play, considering that we saw multiple times throughout those Gold Fury fights. First at 10 minutes, we saw it go in favor of Elevate. They evened up the gold gap to 27k each, and then again at 19 minutes, that was the one that we talked about that kind of funneled into the Portal Demon fight as well, where we saw Elevate again come out on top there. And then finally, it was just that it was around the 22.5-minute mark, the last Gold Fury that probably led to the biggest snowball lead before Elevate continued their rampage throughout.
But we talk about the snowball and the snowball lead, but that all developed because it continued as time went on. Because these small little battles that Elevate kept winning, kept getting a small advantage over, by the time the late game came around, the gold lead had amounted enough to really cause them issues where they couldn't get back into the game for Strictly Business.
So as far as game number 1 is concerned, I know that it was just Strictly Business not being able to seize any opportunities for a comeback potential. What do you think they need to do going forward into game number 2 to really come back from that?
Well, Tolly mentioned about banning the Hell away. They could have banned something else if they weren't going to pick it. I'm not necessarily sure they will change that up, but it depends whether they will be first pick or second pick this game too, as to what I'd choose to do. Because potentially, if you are first pick, you can leave a lot of things available for yourself to take again and get themselves more comfortability for this team.
Do you